this was the first time since he left Vietnam that he could look around at nature, at the trees, at the birds, at the mountains, and he could see God. And as soon as he told me that, I thought, oh, you're hooked. You're hooked now. I have a neat story about a baptism with a fellow that I've known since we were in the fourth grade. We went through high school together. We weren't in the same social circles, but we were always friendly. And he went to Vietnam in the war, after graduated. I didn't, so we separated for many years. And then fortunately, that's one good thing about Facebook, we got reconnected. And after a while, he sent me a text, and his text says, "Charles, I have a favor to ask. Can you answer the following questions for me? Number one, what happens to earlier man who didn't know of God? What of the primitive people in Vietnam and around the world? Number two, how do I find my way back to God, which I lost in Vietnam? How do I start to believe again? Neither seems easy for me to answer. I was a strong believer before the war. Thanks much." So the thing that really impressed me about this story, which I'll go ahead and tell, was that I asked Chris, when he contacted me like this, why he contacted me in particular. And it was an interesting thing for me. He hearkened all the way back to our high school days. And he said, well, number one, he says, you never disrespected me. You're always a compassionate guy towards me, and I saw you as a good leader. And then later we were talking, and he said, the other thing was, he said, I realized you're the only guy who is a minister that I know. And what really stood out to me from all that was the reason he contacted me, and he actually had anybody to contact, was the fact that he knew me and he knew that I was a believer in Jesus. And so that he could connect with me to get his own answers and his own relationship to the Lord squared away. So I think one critical thing about this story for all of us is to recognize that we need to allow our relationship with Jesus to be known and not be shy about it or afraid of it. You don't have to go cram it down anybody's throat, but you just make sure that people know that you know Jesus and you're available. And so Chris did. He contacted me immediately. I got him on a Zoom call, had him tell me his spiritual journey from high school days. And so we were there for about an hour and a half walking through his story. And I suggested that we get together and do a Discovery Bible study on Zoom. And I live near San Diego in Escondido, California, and he's in Kingman, Arizona. So we're about a 5.5 hour drive apart from each other. So we decided we'd do this on Zoom. He and his wife, Julie, came on, and we started off with the regular Creation to Christ series. And I knew that he was hooked right away after the first session because, of course, the first one is just the first 5 days of creation before God created human beings. And so the following session, when I asked him what happened when he did what he said he promised he would do, which is to pay much more attention to nature around him, and his response was that this was the first time since he left Vietnam that he could look around at nature, at the trees, at the birds, at the mountains, and he could see God. And as soon as he told me that, I thought, oh, you're hooked. You're hooked now. You're seeing something you haven't seen for practically your entire adult life. And so we continued on through the next couple of sections in Genesis. It's been great for them. And I look back to the reason why I was chosen. I'm going to put two things. One was I was obvious about the fact that I'm a believer, and so they knew it. But number two is I've been praying for the Lord to give me people that I can lead to Christ. So that's the other big deal, is praying for those opportunities. And so he kind of dropped them in my lap.